Good evening. Welcome to Auntie Kathy After Dark podcast. Today's subject is Sisters Under the Gun, 7 Pounds of Pressure. And today I have a special guest with me, Miss Millicent Mickle.
Thank you.
This is a very special person, everyone. I have known Millicent for a long time now, starting out as an educator. Now, let me say, in order to be an educator, you have to have a certain set of skills. And I'm not talking about scholastic. I'm talking about mental set of skills to be able to deal with the capacity of kids these days. Yeah, I know, I got one, and you know personally what I struggle with that one. And in order to be able to be an educator today, you have to be able to talk to people and to reason with people and to understand these kids because they are complicated. So Miss Millicent Mickle, when Lamar was at Western Hills, he was part of a program called GRAD Cincinnati. Now, GRAD Cincinnati is basically a program that helps kids in school achieve their goals and work themselves into a scholarship, which is an amazing thing. I have witnessed it happening, and the program was wonderful. Just for Lamar to be a part of something like that was, I think, a plus for him and a plus for me because, being a helicopter mom, I'm all up in his business. So if he's a part of GRAD, I'm a part of GRAD.
There you go.
So started off as the educator, and the kind of friendship grew. And as two women, no longer just a parent and an educator, now we're just two women out here in the world trying to survive, trying not to let the world suck us in. And, there are things happening all over the place. People are struggling. And you want to be able to have somebody that you can call to say, what should I do? Who should I call? A friend, a confidant. And Millicent has become that person. And when Lamar and I were struggling, you came through like a champ. You came and brought us food boxes. You gave me support emotionally, conversationally. Just as women, it's going to be okay. And I really appreciate what you put into this friendship. And I cherish you. I really, really do.
I thank you. And I tell you, you and I came together, and interestingly, again with GRAD, I worked the program part-time. I was primarily in the elementary school. He was at the high school, and we did a couple of things. The elementary school staff did a couple of things with the high schools. And what I found at that time, he's a sweet kid, but you got immense talents. Had them then, have them now. And it was refreshing for me to see you in action and doing things then. And I know how you were pouring into your family. In fact, even when you left town and went to pour into the life of your father and to care for him, and how you continue to care for your son. And even as he is growing and as an adult and helping to still shepherd him and help him through what the challenges he's dealing with, right? It is a blessing to see, and I think that it is my honor to be able to do what I can do with and for you now. I can't say I don't have some stuff for you now because you got skills, and I know those skills are there to be exercised in that. But I am, if I can do, I do what I can do, and I think it's a blessing. God has put me in position to be able to be of service and to be of some help, and so I'm glad to be able to do so.
It's really nice to hear about someone being selfless. And I think that as women, being selfless is a choice because we do so much. Sometimes it's not hard to step out and say, it's just about me. I could care less about everybody else because right now I'm struggling and I need to take care of me. So, but you regardless, you're there, and I know if you're there like that for me, I know you're there like that for everyone else that you come in contact. And I feel like this. every woman that has shown that type of tenacity and care for others needs to be validated. You need to know that you have been seen and you are appreciated for those things. So now, with the whole theme of Sisters Under the Gun, we face a lot of pressure. There are expectations that we have to meet as women, as mothers, as daughters, as sisters. There is a lot, not to say that the males don't have their own set, but today it's about letting women know how seen they are. When you were an educator in elementary, and elementary is you know, before you get to the high school stage, elementary is like you get to know the personalities of these little people and the personalities of their parents. A lot of times the mothers are the ones that make that contact. I mean, there are a few men that make contact and stay relevant in the kid's life, but the majority of the time it's the moms. When you were, did you come in contact with anyone or any group of women that you felt like weren't being seen for what they do as parents?
Well, in the context that I was, it's kind of interesting, and I think about my own experience as an educator, and in all sorts of different kind of capacities.
Right.
I saw mothers who did not feel seen. I saw a lot of grandmothers who also did not get seen except for I saw women stressed. I saw some and I don't put a knock on all younger parents, but I saw some who just were lost. And not to sound condescending, but some who didn't even see they were lost. I think there are some who have value that and power that they didn't realize they had. You know, one of the things that I've seen with parents is that they don't, especially in the culture that we live in. You know, it's very youth driven. It's very even pushing. I'm not gonna say children don't have rights or shouldn't have any. I'm not gonna say that. But so much is about pushing what the child feels, what happens here, and we have less, in so many ways, emphasis on a parent's right and ability to mold their children, to teach them certain things, to help them live certain ways. Saw a lot of parents who just did not seem to be mothers, who didn't seem to be empowered to understand that they can shepherd the way their children behave, how their children act. They not only have responsibility, they've got the right to do it. They have the power to do it. They're the most powerful people in those children's lives. And I saw some young women didn't quite feel that. I saw some grandmothers who felt beleaguered.
I'm sorry for that interruption. That's a commercial break.
So I don't think they believe they have the power they have, and so I don't think they're seen as the powerful women they can be and they are.
You know, there's a whole. When I was growing up, there was a generational kind of cut where grandma, mom, the children, they kind of passed down those stories and those lessons that they needed to be able to, move in this world the way we do. I don't think that that's happening anymore. I think we've lost that because the ones that were supposed to be guiding are the ones that need the guidance now. You have a lot of young mothers, which means you have a lot of young grandmothers out there. And they're not able, they don't realize how important they still are. It's not about, whether they have money or anything like that, but the lessons that were supposed to be handed down are no longer handed down. So you've got a group of women out here, they don't feel seen because they've never been seen. Right. There's no one at home, grandma, mom, auntie saying, I remember when, and I'm proud of you for doing what you're doing right now. I had that. I come from educators, I come from social workers and people like that, and the women in my family who are now gone, but they left me with tools, things that I can call back on and say, okay, I remember when my mother said this, or I understand why my mother didn't want to be my friend, and all these kinds of things. You've got a group of women out there who don't have that, so what do? They rely on us. We have become the motivators for our group, for, the women out there who are not being seen. I like to show how being a mentor to somebody, just being that wise words, changes the way somebody is seen out here in the world. Just because you spent some time giving them some knowledge or giving them some creative, references and way they can do things a little bit different, so they're not so stressed out. And if they're not stressed out, then the kids are not stressed out. Right. And like I said, being an educator, you have to be able to see all these things. There's a lot that educators go through now that they didn't go through when I was in school. Okay, it was a totally different setup back then, and now it's just so different. And if it weren't for women like you, those women wouldn't get any recognition. They would just kind of fade into the background and not be seen. But then you have these children who are on the forefront and are being seen, but they're being seen in the wrong way because the guidance that they needed, they're not getting, and not because mom does not want to give it, it's just she doesn't know how to give it. So the kids now rely on teachers as second parents.
Well, my father was an elementary school principal. And so from looking through his eyes, and some of the teachers have always been at it. I listen to the stories that my folks tell about their growing up. They grew up in North Carolina in the 1940s and 50s when the teachers lived in the neighborhood. The teachers went to church, the teachers lived in the neighborhood. Now, everybody, we're not going to say that there was a total classless society, none of that. Right. But everybody was sort of around each other, knew each other, and so your teachers were not divorced from your community. Right. They weren't divorced from your family. Somebody knew, and you cutting up at school meant that you wouldn't have to go home and tell it, because somebody done told it already. And if they didn't tell it today, they're going to see Miss Susie at the store, and they're going to tell it then. So all of that fabric, though, connected everybody, kept everyone together. I know for me, again, with that type of an upbringing, or that type of background, I wasn't getting in trouble in school. And I can't say I didn't. But when I did get in trouble in school, I knew what was coming. Right. Because there was a certain respect that was expected. You were expected to have a certain level of decorum and respect for your teachers. And not that the teachers were always right, although I never knew that. I didn't know when I was growing up that there were some issues that my parents had with the way that some of my teachers handled stuff. But it was like, no, the teacher and the parent were a team, working together for the benefit of the child. In a lot of ways, what I see today, and some of that is reflective of people's experiences. They didn't have the greatest experiences in school, and I get that too. But in a lot of ways, in terms of parents and teachers, instead of them really collaborating, they are often at odds. And so the child is either caught in the middle or gets the opportunity to play them against each other. Yeah. And again, some of that, our teachers tend not to live where we live. They don't always look like us. They and they don't always get us. So you've got a clash of cultures, clash of intentions. Sometimes the language is different. There's a lot of things. What I used to find when I was working with GRAD, I was an instructional coach, and so I had some contact with parents, not a whole lot, but some. And when I did have it, sometimes it was interesting, just the conversations I would have with parents, and the way I would see those faces kind of loosen up when I'd start talking to them versus how some conversations they would have with some of the teachers.
Right.
Because I'd look at kind of the ways that, not that the teacher necessarily came at them in a way that was quote unquote disrespectful, but the teacher may come at a way that wasn't culturally sensitive, culturally validating, and the parent is already coming in with hackles up. There's a way that, and I'm not saying that, I have seen other races of teachers dealing with black parents,
right,
and doing it well. But I've also seen it not doing well. And more often than not, again, it's not that the teacher may be coming at it from coming at them in a certain way, but they're just not coming at them in a way, or to them at a way that's culturally appropriate,
right,
culturally sensitive, and that. So it's interesting when you can get that parent, you kind of meet them where they are, and you can see that diffusion, and then the teacher and the parent can have a conversation in ways to work towards the good of the kids.
right.
Because sometimes you find that parents, especially if you got a child that whatever those issues may be, child having issues in school, sometimes my kids have issues at home too, and the parent is at wit's end dealing with some of that same behavior, but then they're coming to school and they didn't know how to deal with it at home. It'd be nice if they had a teammate they can work with so that they can work some things together versus, oh, I got to battle him and I got to come battle you too.
Right.
So,
see, that's what I mean when I say Sisters Under the Gun. We hold this piece these lives in our hands, and it's not just the kids.
right.
When you go and teach a child, you're teaching a family now, because this child, you don't know what their situation is at home. Sometimes parents learn from their kids, and I know a lot of women who did not get their GED, didn't finish school, and things like that, but because, and that's some of it's situational, when their kids are in school, I almost feel like they're in school too. They're learning along with their children. There is a stigma about, you should be at a certain level as, educationally when you're a parent, so that you can help your child learn better. But it doesn't always, plans change, things change.
Right.
It's not always the situation. Did you find that in your travels, not just in the schools, but in general, that there are a lot of moms learning from their children?
Yes. I mean, with mothers, I think motherhood is, if not the best university, not one of the best universities, because we learn from our children all the time, whether we admit it or not. But we learn from them. We learn a whole lot from them. And it may not be the ABCs, it may not be this or that. It may be some subject matter, because there are things that kids learn now. I tutor these days. And I tutor high school students. I tutor them on all levels, but I tutor a bunch of high school students. And they'll come with some stuff that, like now, I was an undergraduate math and English major. I took 3 levels of calculus, differential equations, number theory, blah, 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 blah. The kid will come up with something, 10th grade will pull out something I've never seen before in my life.
That's very true.
So all kind of, they'll come at the 4th. I remember when I was working for GRAD, and I was an instructional coach for math teachers, and they were teaching kids some stuff, and I'm looking at this like, I don't remember seeing this until I was a sophomore in college. Why are we teaching this to a 4th grader? But that's what they do. Right? So there's all kinds of stuff, content-wise, academic content-wise. So yes, parents can learn from kids, but even better, what you learn from your kids, you learn things like patience. You learn how to treat people the same and differently, because your children are different. And while you want all of them to have the same level of respect, or treat them all with the same level of respect, show them all a similar level of love. I mean, quite honestly, you like some better than the other, but you love them all. But you can't treat each one of them different. A child that's running out 50 miles an hour everywhere, you gotta have a different approach for that child than you do with the one who plods along like a turtle. Now, everybody's gonna get there, but you have to deal with them a different way to get them all there, and especially if you want to get them all there at the same time, and to help them all feel validated when they get there and valued when they get there. And as a parent, you learn these things. So kids teach you stuff all the time. They teach you patience.
When you thought you had none,
Okay.
they help you learn you have just one more gram of patience.
That's right. That last nerve has another one behind it.
That's so funny, you know. My mother would say you're getting on my last nerve. But then the next day, it's like, how did I get on your nerves again? You said I got on your last one.
Right.
And you know, it's things like that that I know my mother wanted to choke me for. So why are you saying these things? And see, now, with Lamar, he says stupid stuff like that to me, and I'm like, now I see why my mother talked to me the way she did. I understand completely. We learn from our experiences as children how to be who we are as women, as adults. In your personal life, now how many kids do we have? I have one. All right. How did your experience with teaching affect your relationship with your child? Your daughter? The daughter.
Interestingly enough, my daughter, I think I'm the most patient person. and I have to think about that though, but it's funny because I used to tutor all her friends in math. Tutored all her friends in math. She was like, no. Now, my mother at the same time, my mother, a remarkable person, she put all of us in college. When she and my father got married, he started college. And so, you know, they put him through school. They put my brother in. I went in. And so, at that point, if she had not been, now her father had wanted her to go when she graduated from high school. She got married instead. And she said, you know, I've never been. And when I graduated, she said, you know, everybody's been with me. I think I want to go. So she went and graduated at 50 with a degree in UC. But while she was in school, and I was in grad school, and she was taking algebra, it was messing her up. So I worked with her. Now I think I've got patience galore. I think I'm working through all this kind of stuff. She says the same thing. Oh, that patient. Oh, okay. But you got through algebra, didn't you? We got you through. So what I find is that there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of things I've taught my daughter, and there are a lot of things that I watch her do and say that I see where they come from. There are some things she does and says that I don't see where they come from.
Right.
But, you know, that too, I look at my own mother, who, you know, I'm blessed, she's 85 years old, she's still living. We actually live together. And so I see things in myself that are a direct line from her. I see things that I do differently from her. I see things that in my parenting I did differently from her, some of which I'm glad I did, some of which I wish I had done just like she did. Right. Hindsight. So I can see the line, the trajectory, and I'm blessed. I've got a granddaughter. And she is so cute. Thank you very much. She loves her person, by the way. But I see things in her, and I see things that the 3 generations of women ahead of her in this family line are saying to her and investing in her that, speaking of this, there's my gun right here, that I see coming through that line as well. And so,
Well, see, this is what I'm talking about. Sisters supporting sisters even as mothers and daughters. Just like sisters teaching sisters, parents and teachers. These relationships are built on the sensitivity of a woman and all these different things that we carry in our sacks, our life sacks, where we keep our common sense, we keep our mother wit, we keep our patience, the patience we didn't think we had, but we do because it's right behind that other thing. You know, we do a lot and we produce these people to go into the world and to hoping and praying that everything that we've taught them is applied in the world. And that's what I'm talking about, that 7 pounds of pressure. You don't know what that moment is going to be for that child, whether it's your child or someone else's child, but you hope that you put enough pressure behind it that you can put and aim it in the right direction.
you know, the other side to that is that we also pray that, you know, that one of the things that I'm coming to see in, I say these last couple of years, it's been an interesting last couple of years, I'll say. But I also see evidence of some things that weren't directly taught, weren't expressly taught. Some things I see come out that are good things, some things not so good things. And so prayer is that children will pick up what's meant for them for the good, and that they take some other things and see how maybe they can do some things differently. We teach our children to value themselves. I think one of the things that's interesting as we talk about this is so like being selfish. One of the things I think for me, as I look at some of the lessons that my daughter, my nieces make it for me, that giving and selflessness is a good thing. But the flip side of that is that you need to find that balance to do for you and to grow for you. And if there are things that you put to the back burner for yourself, sometimes you do that sometimes in expedience, you do that sometimes it's necessary. But often long term, if doing things for you that you need to do for your own growth, for your own well-being, even if that means that something else has to not fall totally by the wayside, but has to be put to the back burner, that's actually a good thing for your kids to see too, because they'll see that you value you, you got to take care of you, and they'll then see that that's something they need to do for themselves too.
Exactly. Perfect point. Great point to finish off with. You know, I have to say, you know, I know what you're talking about because, you know, my mother was not here to help me guide Lamar through high school as a mom. He had his dad, but as a mom. And watching you all work with these kids and just listening to how much, you know, you pour into them. You have poured that into the mothers too, the parents who come in and are in contact with you all, just being a part of GRAD. You know, there were plenty of times I was ready to push Lamar into the river, but there were conversations that were had with me to say, you know what, you need to calm down, relax, take a moment, breathe. It's not all about him all the time. Sometimes it's about what you need. And self-care, I have to express, self-care is very important. When I decided to go back to school at 56, I scratched my head a couple of times like, what are you doing? But it was just like you said, all these years I put myself on the back burner. I let my husband go to school. I put time getting my son through school, and it just wasn't any time to put me back on the front burner. But now that I'm on the front burner, and I'm getting ready to graduate from school, you know, it feels like it was all worthwhile, the waiting for the moment for me to be able to do what I need to do, the constant encouragement from the women in my life, saying that, you know, you need to put yourself first. Lamar is important, but he's not number one. You are number one now. And I learned these things from the women in my corner. And I just want to say thank you. And that you are seen. You are validated officially with the bigger check mark. Check mark. And if you don't know by now, then you need to know. Check out GRAD. That's a shameless plug for them. GRAD Cincinnati with Patricia Stewart Adams. Check out Auntie Kathy Rocks, because her granddaughter is wearing a piece and she loves it, so you will too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I just want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your story and everything with us. I really, really appreciate it. This is my first guest spot on my podcast, so you know, this was a trial and error, and the trial went well. I am very happy.
All right.
And I appreciate you, Mimi, and I love you, and you're wonderful, and thank you.
Well, let me say this. I am so happy to have been able to be here. Shameless plug. So again, I work with kids of all ages and their academic tutoring and that kind of stuff. But I also I was teaching sociology, a lot of stuff, right? So I was teaching sociology, and one of the areas that I taught was about health and seniors and senior health. And so I said, well, it kind of makes sense. I have an insurance license, and so I'm also working with seniors around their Medicare coverage and understanding their healthcare options and that kind of stuff too. So I'm here. It's all about education on all kind of fronts, and glad to be able to do that. And again, God says, get out there and help people. You got the ability to do it. Don't make me not continue to give you these blessings. You know, he's gonna give me these blessings, but don't squelch the blessings I've given you by holding them on. Share them.
And that's right. Share those blessings with other people. What you don't need now, somebody else might.
That's right.
So share. If you're looking for some insurance, some Medicaid, Medicare insurance, Millicent Mickle is your lady. She can hook you up. Trust me when I tell you that when she says she's going to hook you up, she really, really is. So leave me comments if you need her information. I would be more than happy to share that with you. And this is about the end of our podcast today, but thank you for showing up and showing out, and pay attention, because there's another podcast coming very quickly. So Auntie Kathy is gonna be back very shortly, and stay tuned. Remember that God loves you, I love you, there's enough love for everybody, kindness is contagious, share it with everyone. All right, well, on that, peace.
Peace out.